Okay. Seems like I'm live and I didn't realize I was already live. Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. Let's just make sure everything is going well. I just want to make sure we are live. See if I can also tweet that out from the channel. So let's go here. And I should be already live. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'll see. Yeah, audio levels are good. Live. And here. So we're going to say get shareable link. Yeah, no, we are live. Sabaho, welcome back to the channel. Hey, everybody's in here. Let's do here. Pop-out chat. I'm going to move my chat window and I'm going to actually make it a lot bigger. And then just obviously manageable here so that I actually can see it. I learned that one from last time when we did this. Sabaho everybody and welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday morning with tech. Today is April 4th, so it's 4/4/20. And today I wanted to kind of go through again, similar to what I did last week, which essentially is recapping some of the stuff that went on during this week. But I also want to talk to you guys a little bit more about the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro leaks. I'm actually starting to see a lot more videos coming up on a lot of people's channels, specifically Juan Carlos's video that he put out not that long ago, maybe a few days ago, talking about specifically, obviously, you know, how it is in the long term these devices have handled, and of course, which one is his favorite, the one that he goes to basically more frequently than other devices. I'm already starting to see some people coming into the chat. I want to say good morning, welcome. Let's go ahead and just open it up right here. I have somebody here under the R74262. Hey guys, of course we have Arnold, we have Charlie, and of course we have Open as well. And last but not least, I think some more people are starting to jump in here, so I'll give it a few more minutes to build up. It's been an interesting week in tech. Not a lot of actual announcements being going on as far as like brand new devices. A lot more things coming in. We are, as you probably already know, we're about a week or so, a little over a week or so away from the announcement of a couple of new things, namely basically new devices. But it seems like OnePlus did kind of confirm roughly when things are going to be announced as far as the OnePlus 8 and the 8 Pro. Or at least that's what the leaks are saying. So that's something that we're also going to be focusing on a little bit more. But let me go ahead and get into the actual, let me just double check here. I didn't get a chance to share it. So let's go ahead and jump into the live stream. I'll jump into the main channel, hopefully here. And let me see if I can tweet that over and make sure not to make the sound go here. Yeah, that's what I just realized. My audio was on. So let's go ahead and share this over real quick on Twitter, and here it is, Saturday morning, and I've already done that. Cool. So short answer, short story, essentially, where we're going today is talking about what are the things that are coming in from basically OnePlus. So we'll talk about a little bit of some of those leaks that are coming in, as well as also kind of recapping some of the stuff that I've done on the channel this week to show you guys as far as, you know, how has it been basically using a stylus with the LG V60 ThinQ, and of course, you know, all the other things that we normally are expected to basically see. It also, you noticed probably on the channel that I've had a few videos. Tim is in the live stream. Laverne is also in here. Hey guys, good morning. So essentially, how has it been using the stylus as well as also the desktop experience? I did three videos this week, focused, if you notice, primarily on let's say Dex or even EMUI desktop type of experiences. The first video was obviously talking about some of the new updates that we saw with the basically Dex within EMUI 2.1 and some of the new features that we should be able to see coming down to other devices as well. So just kind of a quick comment for Laverne right there, Laverne Clark. Haven't heard much as far as coming down to the to obviously the Note 9, but it should be able to come into the Note 9. Note 10 was last year's version, obviously, and Samsung has been able to provide us updates all the way up to about 2 years. So we did receive Android 10.0, but we haven't seen the actual update C as far as some of the new tips and, you know, the new features that are coming in with the S20. It may come in later, but that's something that is typical to Samsung. Okay, so we'll get into these guys. We'll get into the actual chat. We'll answer some of the questions, but to kind of circle back. So the desktop experience with Index, some of those features in there within the video that we did at the beginning of the week. The other video that I also did for you guys was also this little hub or power, basically super hub called the Zendur Super Hub. The beautiful thing about this is literally like a 3-in-1: a charger, a USB hub, as well as the ability of actually having an MHL adapter to connect. It was using in the the HDMI 2.0 port that we have on the bottom. So as far as the ability of basically getting all of these things running and how these videos have been running, overall, this hub, the video that I posted, has actually been doing pretty well. Most people have been basically pretty positive about it. And what I love about it, obviously, is the ability of using this and initiating either EMUI desktop, Dex, or even desktop experience within the LG V60. So that's something that is very unique to Android 10.0. But the way at least LG has been doing it, at least gives us a way of using it in a very, very nice form factor. Now, you probably saw the thumbnail on the video. You probably had a chance to see that there was actually something else in there. So I do have my hands on with the Honor Magicbook. So we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about early impressions with this. I haven't done a video on it yet. Been spending a little bit more time with it and just basically getting the feel of how this laptop works. So we'll talk a little bit more about that part. Let's go ahead and switch over to the top-down video. And, again, sabah to everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Just want to make sure everybody's there. And what we see here essentially is that, so here's the LG. We'll talk a little bit about the actual stylus. This is the bamboo pen that works with this. This is bamboo ink. I will also give you guys a little bit of an update. We did receive an update software to the Red Magic 5G that I'm also going to be working on a gaming experience video. Last but not least, I also want to kind of give you guys my opinion on some of the stuff that, Juan Carlos did push out in his video with the recapping long-term OnePlus updates. Also talking obviously about some of the main benefits or some of the main rumors that we're starting to see right now coming out when it comes to OnePlus 8 and OnePlus 8 Pro, which hopefully will be announced within a week or so, roughly around the 14th to 15th of April. So April seems to be a OnePlus month, and we're definitely going to be seeing some cool things. As well as also that we're also noticing that the Red Magic device, as far as Red Magic 5G, I guess the European launch or the global launch is going to be available there. Also, they're doing a competition right now if you'd like to be able to win one of these guys. They're giving out up to 5 versions of these devices, and this was obviously a very cool 144 Hertz display gaming phone that is currently just running literally the best specifications you can get out of the Qualcomm 865 processor. So, there's a couple more questions coming in the live stream. As far as the NVIDIA Shield Pro, will it be able to get back into stock? I can't really speak to that information since I don't technically, actually I don't work for NVIDIA, but I would probably say it's more of a limitation as far as basically just stock. A lot of people are home, a lot of people are streaming, and they want to be able to get that best experience. And I feel like the NVIDIA Shield Pro is by far the best. Although I would say this much, the NVIDIA Shield, the standard one, is actually a very good competitive, basically streamer. The main difference obviously is that it doesn't have the same amount of RAM. So if you're trying to play games on your desktop experience with the NVIDIA Shield Pro, I'd recommend you basically just stick to the Pro. But if it's mostly just streaming, obviously wanting to be able to watch 4K content, getting that 4K upscaling, the NVIDIA Shield is the normal one, the one that kind of looks like a tube, is actually quite capable of doing the job. So if you're able to find one of those, I definitely would pick that up, unless you definitely want to be able to run, let's say, a Plex server, or even the ability of actually running basically games. So if you want to be able to run the NVIDIA GeForce Now experience on there, I think that's basically where it's going to give you the most benefit for the Pro. Otherwise, the standard one will definitely work really good. Now, there's another comment going in here from David KTV. I heard that Huawei needs Google help to share their Google platform. Is that true? I'm not sure what you mean as far as Google's help to share the Google platform. If you're referring to Android, or you're referring maybe to the Google Play services, or even the Huawei-based the GMS and the HMS ecosystems, which basically seem to be obviously missing from, we don't have Google Play services installed on the P40 Pro, the brand new device from Huawei. But as far as sharing Android is an open source platform, so they're able to basically go into more of an AOSP-based experience and still provide updates into Android without necessarily losing that functionality. It's the Google Play services that are not installed, or actually are not able to be used basically in a legal way right now directly within Huawei devices. But the main difference as far as security patch updates and so on, all of that stuff still works pretty fine. So the app. Okay, so sorry, just got the update as far as what David was actually referring to. So App Gallery does not necessarily need Google's help. It's a built-in application. I would say basically an app. It's hard to say because it's not a fully fledged, I would say, app store, or basically a replacement one-to-one for the Google Play Store. It has applications. It works in a certain way. It provides us different shortcuts and options to be able to download the applications that we need. And I'm working on a video just to kind of show you guys basically life with a Huawei device without Google Play services and how to be able to actually get through and get everything that you need running on this device. Overall, I feel like Huawei is doing a great job of trying to basically provide people with options and alternatives to be able to install things, and they're really starting to work with more and more companies. You do need to basically find I think they're working with Aptoid, basically the Aurora App Store, App Gallery, and of course APK Pure and APK Mirror to be able to supplement some of the things that they may not have directly within the App Gallery. But as far as Google helping, I don't think Google would be basically participating in this at this point because of the restrictions that they have currently on just even be able to share the Google Play service functionalities within their system. Now, there is one more question. I think if I saw somewhere, okay. Google Apps will be present in Huawei Play, so Google Play won't function like on iOS. So yeah, Goran Petrovic did actually kind of try to answer the question. Essentially, yeah, it's not going to work the same way, but it is functional. So let's go ahead and start talking a little bit more about what's been going on. I'll talk as far as the OnePlus stuff as soon as I kind of get a chance to talk a little bit more with what's going on, and of course the video that Juan Carlos pushed out. Actually, quite a few creators have been putting out OnePlus long-term reviews, so which I think is a very good thing, kind of like prepping us to start seeing what the OnePlus 8 and the 8 Pro will start working. Anytime, guys. So starting off with the actual, what we did initially, beginning of the week, I did a video for you guys, and actually it was my, during the live stream about a week or so ago that I did it with Juan Carlos, we had an opportunity to basically see some of the main functionalities that basically LG has when it comes to the pen stylus, and that's because it actually does support a pen stylus functionality. The video that I did on Monday was basically very much focusing on all the benefits, all the features that we get in here, the touch sensitivity, the customizations as far as the 2 button options that we have on this, and of course that it actually mirrors on both sides of the display. So an example would be here. Let's say I'll go ahead and open up screen memo. So you'll notice right there, this is something that I'm able to basically do something directly on the main screen. And if I'm done with it, I can close it, or of course I can share it. But the really cool thing about it is, let's go ahead and open up here. We'll go into basically, not chat, here it is. So new memo. The new memo screen here, I can swipe it, send it to the left. I'm obviously still able to use it. And of course here I'm able to launch other applications that I'm able to use with it. So here, like the draw chat, this is something that is very cool. So I'll go ahead and close this one. Actually, let's go ahead and open up a new one. So draw chat one more time. And we're gonna go ahead and just recap and say, so here we are. How are you? And of course, just play that back. And of course, it just works normally as you'd expect it. And you can share it, change the color, and customize it all in all while using the main device. So a lot of good functionalities built into here. And of course, you have the ability of locking the actual option here so that it doesn't take away the screen. The native applications that are built in that are supported, Nebo, as well as Quick Memo. So they work really, really good. If you're looking to pick up the LG V60, I feel like the V60 right now is definitely a good contender for functionalities as far as what you want to get out of your device for creativity, for productivity, and for just getting everything set up and working the way you normally want to get out of an Android device. It is running the latest specifications as far as the 865 with the X55 modem for 5G on T-Mobile. Now there is different versions of that, obviously, with the AT&T. I was going to say Sprint, but obviously the merger happened, so T-Mobile Sprint, kind of the same area now. We have AT&T and of course the Verizon variant. And the case is actually sold as an accessory on T-Mobile, where it is included as part of the price when you're purchasing it directly from the other 2 carriers. Great option. The fact that we actually have support for the pen is definitely very good. Although I felt like this was a feature that wasn't even really talked about in the specifications. You have to look for it. And again, if it didn't come out in that live stream with one of our viewers, I probably wouldn't have even kind of focused on it because I looked for the word stylus in the notification and I didn't see that. The Sentinel 909 is in here. Good morning. Sabaha, everybody. And then, of course, some of the other things that we have in this device is that obviously the functionality of having dual displays. So that one's pretty good. Check it out on the channel. That came out on Monday. It was actually a really good video that I felt like was a good way to show the benefits of the dual screen. But not only that, the fact that the S Pen, well, sorry, not the S Pen. I got to make sure not to say that because it is not a S Pen substitute. It works in just the way LG has integrated it into their system, and it is present. Now, I did double check with Juan Carlos since he has the LG G8X. It does not work on the G8X and it does not work on the LG V50. So in the same way, sorry, what I mean by that, and I mean that we don't have those hidden menus, the pen functionalities within the UI within those two devices. It will work as a standard, like if you had any other Bamboo device and Bamboo pen, this is going to work the same way. But the additional features that we see here with the V60 are unique to the V60 moving forward. So the hope obviously is that we see that with other devices coming out. Definitely. So Goran Petrovic is basically, yeah, exactly. He misses HTC. I miss HTC as well. Oh man, I miss HTC being in the game. When I first started using basically more of an Android experience, even on Windows Mobile, I remember the HTC Touch with their Touch UI and just all of the functionalities that HTC used to just lead with. And of course, you know, the M7, the M10, the massive sound, all the experiences. The HTC is definitely always holds this very special space for me because not only did they also kind of create the first Nexus, but they also did create a lot of the new technologies that we enjoy today, namely, or at least pioneered it. The stereo speaker that's on the LG here, something that we back in the day when HTC was pioneering it with the M7, having two front-facing speakers that sounded absolutely fantastic. So we definitely have a lot of stuff that came out straight from HTC. So is the LG, so we have another question here from Hugo Henrique. Is the V60 on sale already in the US and is it available on Amazon? So yes, so to answer that question, the LG V60 ThinQ 5G, long name, short story, it is a great phone, but the name is, the actual phone is available in the US. Unfortunately, it is not available in an unlocked model, and that's why it's probably not going to be available on Amazon in the near future. Currently, it is only basically a carrier-locked version. So an example would be this is a T-Mobile variant. This only works on T-Mobile. You are able, obviously, to be able to buy that and then unlock it if you paid for it full price. An experience of obviously outside of T-Mobile's service is going to be depending on your carrier where you are. T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon are currently the three main carriers that are carrying it. Keep in mind that the AT&T and the T-Mobile variant only support sub-6 when it comes to 5G technology, and the Verizon's the only one that supports sub-6 and millimeter wave. So for some reason, there's some tuning in there that was done that only the Verizon version will work for you, where the other one will not. But keep in mind, once you unlock it, obviously you're able to test it out with your carrier per se. Please tell me which apps lock used is in the S20 Plus. Which apps lock? Hitness Sony. If you can elaborate a little bit more on that question, I'm not sure exactly which one you're referring to as far as the apps lock. Are you talking about basically the lock functionality where you're able to lock certain applications from other people to use them without putting in a pin or using your fingerprint, or are you talking about basically different other like lock screen applications and so on? So that'll help me a little bit with that. So jumping into the second video that I did for you guys, and again, that was the one talking about the the Samsung Dex Experience. So we'll get back into the chat in a few minutes. And the experience that we're getting there essentially is that, I would say Dex is a desktop experience that's been updated for quite some time. And I've always basically been a big fan of what Samsung's been providing us. I love the fact that we went away from having the need to have a dock. That's something that we used to have. So when you bought a phone for like $800 or so on back when Dex was first introduced, we always needed to buy, let's say, $100 or $150 dock. That gives us the ability of getting the Dex functionalities. So now we don't need that. We just pretty much need a USB cable. And to use it, the benefits that we see with the Dex 2.1, with One UI 2.1, are very nice. You're able to use them directly on your PC with the Dex on PC on both Linux and Windows. You're able to use it directly on your monitor or your TV with an MHL functionality. So using something similar to the way I use these guys here, this is what I use in my live stream setup. It's going to work really, really good. Marisha, thank you very much. So those are the experiences that you're getting there, and they work very well. Some of the new options that we started to see within the EMUI options here is obviously the ability of having more Windows experience, the ability of snapping Windows into a spot, launching full screen using the Dex Lab option, and you do need to turn that on. So that video was really mostly focusing on that, and it actually did quite well overall on the channel. And I did both in Arabic and in English if you guys are interested. I have them both on English and the Arabic channel. Also, if you're probably not familiar, if you speak Arabic and you prefer to see the Arabic channel, I'll give you guys a link to that in the description below, but it is Tariq Bey, so full spelling of my first name and Bey. Um, so Okay, so the Sentinel 909, I'll get to that question in 1 second. Let me just finish up here. So in the last video that I pushed out for you guys again was this hub, which essentially just kind of culminates everything. So if you use desktop experience on, let's say, a V60, that's the Android 10.0 desktop experience. If you're thinking of using EMUI desktop on a Huawei/Honor device that supports them, not all Honor devices do, and not all Huawei devices do as well. This is going to work really good for you, but it also will work with, let's say, a MacBook. And if you're using, let's say, a MacBook Air or even basically the ultra portable USB-C powered Windows PCs, this is going to work up to 30 watts worth of charging with the PD charger that's present here on the top port. And let's switch over to the actual top camera. And what I mean by this essentially is that you're getting here 3 different ports. You have a USB PD with a hub, that's the top one at 30 watts. You have the 18 watt secondary port here just for charging, no hub functionality. It's 7.5 watt USB-A style connector, which gives us the ability of connecting, let's say, an external thumb drive. And in my case, I was using actually in that video basically a Samsung SSD and transferred data directly from my PC directly to it, and it did actually pretty good and pretty fast connection. Last but not least, of course, is the the HDMI 2.0 connector here to be able to basically connect to a TV or a monitor, and all while connected with just one power cable that you're able to connect. And again, so this is a charger, everything in one, and it currently is on Kickstarter. The video just came out a few days ago, and again, it's been doing pretty well on the channel. So let's jump back real quick into the live stream, and I think Sentinel 909 had a quick question. So is the LG V60 too big for everyday casual use? Is there a point of getting one without the second screen, i.e. use it as basically a tiny computer? So the definition of is this device too big is always going to depend on your personal preference. For me, if you probably look down here, even with the list of devices that we're looking at, this is the LG V60 ThinQ. You'll notice is basically just a massive display. Let's go ahead and open it up here, clear up all the notifications. So for me, this is the OnePlus 7 Pro, and of course, this is the Red Magic 5G. They're all 6.5 or 6 point something up. So for me, I think the device isn't that big. I think the device is, so we're not going to say that the phone is a small phone, and it's definitely not a one-handed phone. Of course, when we start getting notifications on everything will buzz. I think it's definitely a two-handed phone. I think the usage of the device without the second case is very good. You are going to be missing out on certain functionalities, such as the LG gamepad, as well as the ability of actually using the dual display with running 2 simultaneous apps. And I'm not talking in split screen, I'm talking full screen, 2 simultaneous apps on the device. And I think that's one of the main benefits of having the V60. And that's because they're literally 2 separate devices. Using it as a small PC, I think it definitely has a lot of functionalities in there. The desktop experience with an Android 10 is not dependent on the second case. So just plugging in an MHL adapter, you're pretty much set. Just use something like this. And if you'd like to see exactly what I mean, there's the video that I did with the Zendura hub does actually showcase some of those benefits as far as desktop's experience, because you do need to take it out of the case to use the desktop mode, as the adapter that they include in the case for charging with this here is basically a magnetic cable. So it does data transfer, it does power connection, but it does not transfer the desktop experience, at least not today. So yes, I think it's a great option for the price point at $799 on T-Mobile. I think it's a great deal. That's the only place that you're able to pick it up where it does not include the case, and you're able to save a little bit of money. I do have a secondary cases, and they're starting to have cases on Amazon. So all in all, for $799, the 865, 8 gigs of RAM, you have expandable storage, you have stereo speakers, and of course, a lot of functionalities. Desktop mode, it's something that needs a little bit more work from Google. I don't think it's 100% a replacement, let's say a one-to-one replacement for, let's say, the way Dex and EMUI desktop kind of work. So if that's something that you're interested in, I probably wouldn't recommend it. I would probably say it's there, but it's just not 100%. So I would definitely recommend the V60 for anybody that's considering getting a good price flagship device from LG. But again, keep in mind some of the things that you have to understand is, again, it is not going to have a very high refresh rate. So those are the things that some people were looking for, like 120 Hertz and so on. This does 60 Hertz at 1080p quite well. It has a massive 5,000 milliamp battery, and it should be able to last you an easy day and a half every day. So jumping back real quick here, Hugo Henrique, thanks for your answer. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. So Hugo is in the UK. Good evening, actually. That would be for you guys. That's like an evening for us. Um, okay. So Hitness Sony, it was talking specifically about so downloading app lock, which is nice apps to be used on the S20 applications, like application lock. So you want to be able to lock applications directly on the S20. You're able to just use the native application lock functionality that you have in there. So that would be the best way to do it. If you're looking to actually download as a third-party application thing, I have to look into more what are compatible applications for it. I generally just use what's already built in. OnePlus does a great job of it. Most UIs or most operating systems now skinned by third party, like say LG or Huawei or even Samsung, have locking functionalities, but it depends on the device that you have. So if you already have the S20 or the S20 Plus, double check your security section directly within the settings and you should be able to see it. Actually, let me see, where is my S20 Plus here? Or sorry, S20 Ultra. Let's swipe down, go into settings. And then we're going to jump down into where it is, advanced features, privacy, and of course, define personalization, customize Samsung. I do know it has a function. I've seen it before. So here, lock. I'll give it a second for it to load. Lock automatically, instant, lock, fingerprint, roaming, face, smart lock. And of course, secure type, roaming, screen, dynamic. Maybe it's not. Oh, here it is, secure folder. So let's switch over real quick. So under your actual setting here, it doesn't actually lock the specific app, but you're able to add applications directly within the secure folder and of course, customize it and basically create a safe into it. So you're also able to use Samsung Pass that's built in. So it's not a third-party application, but it should be able to give you some of that functionality on your S20 natively and definitely supported by Samsung. So we'll jump into the next one. Okay, so somebody was just asking, okay, so oh man, so David DeWitt, good morning. Hopefully, so he sounds like David's from New York. Good morning. Well, good afternoon for you guys as well. Did LG finally include swipe down for notification for Android 10.0? Every phone should have it at. Natively, sadly, no, it doesn't. They have that by default turned on as the functionality to turn on search, which is what we've seen in some of their earlier iteration. And the only way to get that actually in there is to install a third-party launcher. I do want to say, though, that if you do decide to install a third-party launcher and you are using the dual display, the third-party launcher will only install on the main display, not on the secondary. So you're going to kind of get that dual launcher functionality. The second screen is really optimized and pretty much only works with the native launcher made by LG. So just keep that in mind if you want to be able to do that. The other option that you're able to do is maybe turn on some of the accessibility functions to be able to turn on the pill option, or even you can download some shortcut applications that you're able to add to your home screen, as in it's a shortcut that you click and it opens up the notification panel that are available in the Google Play Store. I feel like those are about the only ways to kind of circumvent that. And of course, the main benefit, if you want to be able to use it with the dual screen, just have as many applications as you want, because you can kind of create more of a dual panel shortcut. So all your apps could be within arm's length or thumb length. Marinus, good morning, good afternoon, sabaho. Oh, anytime. Sorry, I'm trying to kind of read up on the comments here as I have it set up on my second screen so I can keep the live feed in front of me. So those are the things that are going on primarily. And so if you haven't had a chance to see it, I do want to talk a little bit about the Juan Carlos video that he put out this week. So Juan Carlos actually did kind of a recap video talking about the basically the OnePlus 7T. So this one is the OnePlus 7 Pro with 5G on Sprint, soon to be on T-Mobile. I'm not sure how they're going to be dealing with devices that were compatible with the Sprint 5G and how that merger is going to go through. Currently, my understanding is that Sprint and T-Mobile have merged as far as the name, but the actual accounts and users are all still functioning on their own independent networks. And this, of course, is the OnePlus 7T. This is the 7T, and of course, full of a little bit of cat hair there. Both of these devices have held pretty well. They're running the 855 here, and they're running here the 855 Plus. Depending on the experience that you're using, I feel like the way most people need to consider is Android definitely does benefit of having more RAM. Oh, okay, Laverne. Okay, so I'll appreciate that, Laverne, on that one, and I'll jump back on in a second. But so one of the main things that Juan Carlos was showing us obviously is that he kind of gravitated a little bit more towards the 7T, mostly because of the form factor, the longer form factor, as well as the fact that, overall, that's the actual UI, the experience that he was more comfortable using. Nothing against the OnePlus 7 Pro or even the 7T Pro that came out later. In the US, the 7T Pro McLaren Edition was the only one available on T-Mobile. I don't have that phone anymore. That's why I'm showing you guys the 7 Pro. And that one did feature 5G on T-Mobile with the Sub-6 technology that we saw there. Marlene, good morning. And hey, good morning. Hey, Canada. Welcome to the club. And here, essentially, what we're saying is that the device, even though running the 855 with more RAM, will work even better. And actually, ever so slightly edges over a slightly overclocked version of the 855, which is what we see here. Now, obviously, the 90 Hertz display, the resolution, obviously, you get a higher resolution display here, where it's a QHD resolution with 90 Hertz, and here we have a 1080p 90 Hertz. But it is definitely, obviously, very nice. And of course, the triple camera setup on both of these devices. So that kind of leads me into talking about the OnePlus 8 and the OnePlus 8 Pro. So first and foremost, we're literally a week or so away from it. Today is Saturday the 4th, so literally about 10 days or so, we should be able to basically know exactly what those devices are going to be holding and providing us. So let's go ahead and switch over here. I'm going to take the live stream from the window here, and I'll get back to you guys in 1 second. And I'm going to share with you guys, so the videos that I share with you guys are on the channel. So the Zender 4K 60 hub that I share with you guys is here. The V60 ThinQ 5G, this is with the Stylus pen, of course, the Dex 2.1 features that are available there in the last week's live stream. I did want to kind of also share with you guys that I did actually do a live stream on the Amazon Live influencer program, if you are not familiar with it. They're basically a similar way of the way we do live stream here on YouTube, but on the Amazon platform. And I did get a chance to talk about the ROG Phone 2 from Tencent Edition game, and of course the available options for the US as far as Amazon is referring to. So last thing, we're going to go ahead and start talking about the OnePlus 8 and some of the leaks here. So this article was posted on XDA's portal from Errol, and it's kind of like going in and recapping a couple of sources of information. So we'll go down to the bottom of the real quick. So this is from winfuture.de as well as Evan Blast's Patreon section. So if you support Evan Blast or the other two options, you'll definitely see some of the cool things going on. So first and foremost, here's some of the renders. You can definitely see some of the images that they're talking about here. I mean, we're talking about like really thin. They still seem to be basically the camera. There's going to be a hump on the back, punch hole camera on the top left. And it looks like it does actually have a little bit of a kind of over the edge curved edges here on the display. Let's jump back. And that was, if I'm not mistaken, so that was the Pro. So they are talking that there's a 8 and an 8 Pro, and both of the forums are open there. And you can kind of see some of the aesthetic differences that they've gone here. So now we can see some of the things on the left. It looks like the color scheme here is nice. Again, these are renders, these are leaks. Some of these things could also still be like early representations of what the actual devices look like. But what I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about obviously is here. So the case carb options, typical, we have sandstone, but it seems like they're doing sandstone in cayenne. I'm not sure how does that work. So OnePlus is known for their sandstone cases, so this is something very cool. Next thing, obviously, we're looking at here is that we also have the ability of seeing some of the anticipated specifications that we've seen from basically from OnePlus, or at least from the two sources that were listed down there. Let's go ahead and make sure that the stream is still up there. Oh, man, and Brazil, welcome to the club. So first thing that I noticed right there is that they're talking about there's obviously going to be two versions coming out at the same time. Last year with the 7 and the 7 Pro, we did see two devices coming out. We saw them coming out in different markets. That could still possibly be the option here, where in the US we'll get the 7 Pro, sorry, the 8 Pro, which would be the successor to the 7 Pro that I just showed you guys with the hands-on. And that's generally going to be probably what they succeed with, because at the end of the year last year, only T-Mobile got the 7T Pro, and mostly out of OnePlus's site, we only got the 7 Pro, the 7T as far as a successor. Battery and capacity, so we're talking about, or at least what they're saying is about a 6.5 to a 6.78. Again, still respectful of the Full HD to the Full HD Plus. And what that means essentially is that we still have the QHD resolution that we had last year, but we're now looking as essentially is that it looks like 120 Hertz refresh rate. I'm not 100% sure if this is going to be at 90 hertz with 100 with the QHD resolution, which is what we saw last year, or at 100% basically QHD with 120, kind of like how we saw with the Oppo X2 Pro that some channels are able to cover right now. And sadly, I wasn't able to get one myself, so I can only reference that information. And of course, 90 hertz with the full HD plus on the Snapdragon. On the 8. So again, pretty much the same. Full HD with 90 hertz, and now it looks like QHD with 120 hertz on the Pro. Both are going to be running, obviously, the Snapdragon 865. That's typical. The OnePlus will always kind of run with the latest tech whenever they come out at the beginning of the year. Battery capacity, we're talking about a 4300 and a 4500 respectively between the 8 and the 8 Pro. Now, obviously, they're going to be supporting the OnePlus, the Warp Charge 30T. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. And the benefit that you get there, obviously, is the ability of charging your device in literally about an hour. We'll go ahead and start doing a quick sip there. And next thing, obviously, so as far as the camera setup in the back, from the images that we saw at the top, it looks like they're going to be supporting triple cameras on the 7th Pro, on the 8, and then of course it looks like here it looks like a 4 cameras on the 8 Pro, and of course that primarily could be also a time of flight sensor, not sure, but it looks like they're going to be supporting basically a 48, 8, and 5, whereas a 48, 16, and 2 with the device. And chances are that they basically the 16 will be the ultra wide, the main shooter will be the 48, and the tertiary 2 megapixel is more than likely more of a depth sensor or a time of flight sensor. That's generally what we get with when they have a third sensor that is at a lower resolution. What I do want to show with you guys real quick, if you didn't get a chance to hear, I didn't want to skip it too far. Richard Ratner, welcome to the club. Is that actually we're talking about wireless charging. So let's go ahead and switch over. I want to talk to you guys a little bit more here. So here's, I'm going to bring back the live chat to you guys to see on this screen, and we're going to jump back to me. So we're talking, or at least the leak that we're seeing here on the XDA portal, seems like they're talking about a 30-watt charger, wired. That's typical. That's the Warp Charge 30T, and it need to be basically supported by the device. So the 7T, that's one feature that the 7T has that the 7 Pro doesn't have, is the ability of charging its battery at a much faster rate. And it is because of some optimizations done on the hardware-wise, not just the charger. Because for the charger itself, it's the exact same brick as the 7 Pro's charging brick that we saw at the beginning of the year, but it just has a faster technology. And we saw that how it works with the 7T Pro McLaren edition. So that's going to be on the 8 Pro, more than likely even on the 8s, as both of them obviously are successors to what we have. But wireless charging, that's something that we haven't had from OnePlus. That's something that we've been wanting from OnePlus for a long time. And I want to talk a little bit more about that because at the beginning of the year, I had the opportunity to show you guys a video from CES back when, if you guys remember back in the old days when we used to go to conventions, cover events from the actual event and actually get to go to places. And yes, I'm talking about 2 months ago or so January. Sorry, excuse my joke. We've been home for a while, and I hope you guys are doing well, by the way. So what we're getting here essentially is the ability of having wireless charging. Now, they said that they didn't want to do wireless charging unless they were able to do it efficiently, cool, and it will, of course, make sure that it doesn't damage the battery experience or the overall user experience. We've seen wireless charging from almost every other manufacturer on the market, but OnePlus for years has resisted that. The leaks are basically shooting, or at least saying that we could actually see that. But not only that, we're talking about warp charge, or 30-watt charging speed is what at least that leak was saying. Let me just double check and make sure that we're looking at the same information. So right there, 30-watt wireless charging and 3-watt reverse wireless charging. Reverse wireless charging. This is new. This is something that, like, we're talking about basically Huawei level experience. We're talking about Samsung level experience. Most other carriers that have started to support wireless charging, even if they do support wireless charging, have not even dabbled into the reverse wireless charging. And OnePlus is saying, we're not only going to jump into this. If the leaks are true, we're going to jump into it. We're going to jump the whole thing. We're not just going to put our feet into it. So wireless charging and reverse wireless charging potentially, which makes this really, really exciting. Having 120 hertz refresh rate on a device, I think for me is a very big plus. I've been using devices with that technology. Now, I'm talking obviously about the S20 Ultra, I'm also talking about the fact that I've had the ROG Phone 2, the video that I showed you guys I did on the Amazon Live, that's had the actual 120 hertz since last year with the 855 Plus. So the 865 is not the only one. The other thing, obviously, that I've been using and working on for the review for you guys is the Red Magic 5G that supports 144 hertz. But 144 hertz at 1080p, 120 hertz on both the S20 and the ROG phone at 1080p. This is jumping into the realm of what the X2 Pro from Oppo is doing, if it actually does happen, which is quite possible because of the relationship between Oppo and OnePlus. So it's not unlikely that these rumors are going to be true, but we don't know exactly which combination is going to which market and if we are going to get both of these devices in the US. Leaks are indicating that there's two versions, which is what we saw last year. My hope is that we're able to get both. There are also some rumors that I saw somewhere that maybe potentially it could be coming to Verizon. We've heard that again from years with OnePlus. So for me, I always feel like OnePlus is done. Is that every year we get ever so slightly a little bit more into basically the realm of more availability. They've worked with T-Mobile for quite some time, so ever since the OnePlus 6 or the 6T, I want to say. So it's not uncommon that we're able to see them in the US on T-Mobile as well as unlock directly from the OnePlus website. Hopefully we'll find out more as time gets closer. Again, I think it's the 14th or the 15th should be very, very close. I'm not sure if the article does actually mention the actual announcement day. I didn't see it here. I think overall, from the leaks and what we've seen here, I think these are definitely very exciting from what we can actually get from here. Yeah, Marlon is also kind of jumping in here as well. Good vibrations to everybody. And then, here. So if one does not game, what is the advantages of having a higher refresh rate? So for me, this is always going to be kind of something that is very interesting. So that question comes from Dr. Donna Walter. So the refresh rate is mostly yeah, I agree with you. A lot of people associate the refresh rate with gaming, mostly because that's how we've been seeing it with PCs. PCs have always associated higher refresh rate, and when we say higher, we're talking about higher than 60 frames per second. Standard refresh rate on most devices, iOS or Android, and I say standard mostly because we haven't had the 90 as a standard or even the 120 as a standard, is 60 frames per second. Although some applications will run at 30 frames per second on your device, and I think that's been the experience that we've been used to for quite some time. 60 frames per second is a great experience for what you normally do for opening applications, closing application, obviously rendering animation and everything like that. When you jump over to the 90 hertz refresh rate, I think in the general UI experience, and what I mean by this, opening apps, jumping into your settings, going between one window to another, everything runs a little bit faster and your eyes are able to actually see the difference when you jump between 60 and 90. Is it enough to basically say this is definitely a must-have requirement? Personally, I think right now, not necessarily. I think it really depends on what you value the most. If you want to be able to feel like your device is a little bit snappier and it works better, especially if you're upgrading from an existing device, and you have the option of getting a 90 hertz or a 60 hertz, I feel like you should be able to basically pick up the 90 hertz without necessarily making it as the only selling feature. I think it's great in games, depending on the games that you're playing, but even devices that support 144 hertz, please understand that not everything runs at that refresh rate, and your device will default back to the fastest refresh rate your app is working in. So to answer your question, is there a real need for it? I think it's more of a I think it's a nice feature, like more of a luxury feature on a device that you can look for. Is it needed? Not necessarily. I think the way LG's been doing it right now with the 60 hertz, the 60 frames per second consistent frame rate across the applications and the UI is still very good, and it still gives you a really good experience on the device. But I will say this though, if you start using a device that it runs at a higher refresh rate, this is kind of always when you get used to something, and you're used to using the 120 and the 90 and obviously 144, it's going to be a little bit hard going back to something slower, and you're going to notice that the UI is not as snappy. So that's something you want to be aware of. But if you're going into it from something that already has the 60 frames per second and you're comfortable with that, I feel like it's not going to be something that is very needed. Although I feel like probably by 2021, we're probably going to see 90 hertz on everything because everybody's able to do it. And the panels are becoming a little bit less expensive for companies to actually start incorporating. I'm not sure when Apple will start showing these things because for the most part, if you're familiar, I think the iPad Pros had 120 frames per second refresh rate for some time, but for some reason iPhones haven't seen it. So maybe this year we'll start seeing slightly higher refresh rate, but I feel like, again, it depends on the usage. I wouldn't pay more for it unless you've already had it in the past. So hopefully that answers your question. So let's jump over. Okay, so that was from Dr. Donna Walters. Next one is Mr. Corner. Goodbye. Yeah, definitely. Um, oh man, after OnePlus 6, they've removed the headphone jack. Yes. So yeah, so that's something that we have to be kind of accepting. Very, very, very few devices on the market right now have them. But to kind of jump back into the question that you had before, Donna, sorry, yes, hopefully you're okay with me calling you Donna, is the benefit obviously is that gaming devices have kept the headphone jack. So let's talk a little bit more here. Let's switch over. So you notice here is the Red Magic 5G. I have a full-size headphone jack. The OnePlus 7, sorry, here, the LG V60 still carries a headphone jack. Those are things that are still present in 2020, but it depends on the manufacturer you're getting there. So I would probably say if you're okay with going with a slightly higher refresh rate and getting something with a headphone jack, I feel like, or even sticking at 60, the V60 is going to be definitely a really good sell and a really good device and a solid performer for sure. Yeah. Oh, Aditya, hey, good morning. Sabaho, welcome to the chat, man. So Korin Petrovic says, to be honest, only HTC removal of the 3.5 was painful. Yes, LG and HTC were the only ones doing it right. You know, and yeah, I have to admit, the fact of the matter is there's really, for the most part, no reason to remove the headphone jack, especially when we're starting to talk about devices that are going like big, right? You have so much space to fit so much more stuff. And we know that at least if anything else, the ROG Phone 2 is a beast of a phone with a 6,000 milliamp battery, 6,000, which is still bigger than any of the phones on the table. But again, giving you that ability of actually seeing that it still carries a headphone jack, which also works very nicely and also has accessories to add additional headphone jacks if you need them. Oh yeah. So David Poma, I agree with you. The 7T at 90 Hertz feels very, very good. But again, for me, it's because I've been used to it and I got used to using the 90 Hertz ever since the 7 Pro or the 7, just the 7 Pro from last year. OnePlus has been doing it great and have been doing it really, really good. And I love the fact that they also have that automatic mode that you're able to basically have, if the device is on an application that only runs at 60 frames per second at the most, it drops down the frame rate to match the app and of course saves you battery life. Higher refresh rate does also consume slightly more battery because it obviously has to push more frames per second. So 60 is the standard, 90 is great, 120 is really nice, and 144 is just ludicrous mode. And again, 5G, sorry, the Red Magic 5G is featuring it, and I'm working on a video for you guys. Also working on a gaming video for you guys on that one. Yes, so Mr. Comer, definitely, all of them should be bringing back, definitely the headphone jack back in there. So Sashin said, would they also be going through? Oh, so that is a very interesting option. So Sashin Madhur, so hopefully I'm saying the name correctly, commented on, and I think it's circling back to the OnePlus 8 conversation that we were having, is it possible that they're going to be basically using, so if you're familiar with the true wireless bullets or the wireless bullets that basically OnePlus is offering us, or currently offers, they have the wired bullets connection, which are USB-C headphones, are very, very good at $20, by the way. If you're looking for an inexpensive pair of wired headphones that sound great, audio is really good out of them and work with almost any other device, I think those are a great grab for about $20. Now, they obviously had two versions of their wireless bullets. There's two versions of those. One is the version 1 that came out a couple of years ago with the OnePlus 6T, and then there's the one that came out last year, which is version 2. Both are not considered to be true wireless, and that's mostly because of the connection of the wire, the battery, and basically they're more considered to be sport buds because they rest on your back, and of course they're connected. They feature fast charging and of course great audio, and they did get a lot better with the version 2 last year, especially with that the olive color that came out. Haven't heard much as far as if they're going to have true wireless, which means something that uses basically no wires and just sits inside of the ear. I probably would imagine OnePlus going into that realm very, very closely or very soon because almost everybody has them and almost everybody's basically been fine-tuning it for some time. But I feel like it's more of a price point and feature set. So OnePlus will definitely get into something when they're comfortable and it works great and it actually becomes a very good user experience for us at the end. That's why I'm really looking forward to seeing wireless charging on a OnePlus device because, again, haven't seen it, but for them to go all in and do reverse wireless charging, that is going to be very unique. So School 72, ahlan wa sahlan, good morning, sabaho everybody. So I got some of my even a Bullets wireless with wireless charging built into them. So we'll have to see that. So here we have Marisha. Marisha mentioned, he said, I am just too used to Samsung. All my favorite back in the day, BlackBerry is one of my favorite. Moved over to Samsung about 7 to 8 years ago, and I think there's nothing wrong with sticking to an ecosystem that you're comfortable with. I always say, feature what you like and use what you're comfortable with. If you're not receiving what you need out of the ecosystem that you're in, be it Android, be it iOS, and be it depending what manufacturer's version of Android skin that's built into the operating system or on top of it, always switch over to whatever device that you're comfortable with. And I feel like that's always the beauty of it. Android provides us a lot of customizations, but I do understand that Samsung does provide a certain ecosystem that we may be more comfortable using. So I would say stick with what you have that you're comfortable with, and only think about other systems if you're just not getting what you want. Because at the end of the day, you need to get what you need out of the device, and not just because some other device features an extra feature that your device doesn't have. That's always going to be what the main benefit here. If you need it, get it. If you don't, definitely just work with what you get, what you have. So Sony is actually listening to their consumers and brought back the headphone jack. So Mr. Comer, absolutely. That is by far the one surprise that I got at the beginning of the year to this point. Obviously, the device is not out, and I think he's referring to the Sony Xperia 1 Mach 2. So this is the successor to what we saw last year with the Xperia 1, the first 4K display on a mobile device from Sony. And supposedly the Mach 2 is actually bringing back the headphone jack. So that's the manufacturer that's listening to their users and bringing it back and putting it back in your hand. So always a benefit. And if the reason why a lot of people want the headphone jack, specifically when it comes to devices, it's the latency issue. Bluetooth is a great medium to be able to listen to music and maybe watch movies, but when it comes down to latency when you're playing games, you do not want to have that extra millisecond or even half a second or even kind of any latency where you miss the sound. If you're playing a game, let's say PUBG or anything like that, where it's very sound dependent as well as visual, you definitely want to be able to listen to it and know exactly when the songs are playing or the sounds are coming, basically from what direction they're coming. The other thing, of course, is the ability of playing games that are sound dependent, like Thumper. Thumper is a very good sound beat-based game that you need to basically hear the beat exactly when it's coming so you can actually actually initiate the action. If you're using Bluetooth headphones, you're going to have a very hard time playing that game. So let's go further a little bit more. Don't worry, OnePlus 8 Pro will be at 120 hertz. So this is from Bakri Kitua. Hopefully I'm saying the name correctly. So yes, 120 hertz is not an uncommon thing. I don't think that's going to be a very tall order for OnePlus. For me, it's more of are we going to see the same tech that we saw with the X2 Pro, which means 120 hertz at the QHD resolution, not 120 hertz at 1080p, which is what we've seen before with, let's say, Samsung devices. Although I feel like Samsung can technically push it because the tech is there, but we'll have to see how that works. So really looking forward to seeing 120 hertz. Is it going to be at 1080 or is it going to be at a QHD? We'll have to see how that comes out. Again, literally about 10 days left to see how things are going to go there. What's interesting here, this is from Goran Petrovic. What's interesting here is that only ROG Phone 2 is the only phone adequately built for 120 hertz. We have a 6,000 milliamp battery, and they found a place to add a 3.5mm headphone jack at an Ultra, basically, which obviously look at the Galaxy Ultra. The Galaxy Ultra is a massive phone, still missing a headphone jack. Again, for me, it's a question because they have a 5,000 milliamp battery in the Galaxy Ultra, and I feel like they could have added it back. But it's more of a decision that Samsung's going forward with no headphone jack. But depends, actually, some of their lower mid-tier devices, like the A-line devices, still feature headphone jack if you're considering getting a Samsung with a headphone jack in 2020. But yeah, the ROG Phone 2, even in early 2020, is still a very strong contender. I'm not gonna lie and say, like, up till the point I got the Red Magic 5G, that was my gaming phone with all the other functionalities that I had. That was one of my favorite purchases that I did last year. I picked up the 10-cent edition, not the US version, mostly because it was available first, but also because I had the opportunity to get it at a lower price for about $400 back at launch. So for me, for basically I would say almost like a massive gaming experience, 6,000 milliamp battery is a massive battery that lasts forever. So definitely a very big plus there. So do you think more headphone manufacturers? Here's this is from Alex1989M. Do you think that it's more the headphone manufacturers themselves that are not wanting phone companies to include headphone jacks anymore? Maybe because wireless are generally more expensive and or just outright. That's a good conversation, a good statement to make. I would say mostly because of depending on the market that you're in. So headphones are obviously something that require hardware. They're obviously more bulkier when you have a wire. You obviously have also built in more durability into the wire, and the type of connections that you have between your phone and the headphones are always going to also provide depending on the audio experience. So over time, headphones can actually fail on the cord. So there's always going to be that I would say basically best experience. At the end of the day, might as well be the situation that's going on. But if you notice that most companies that have went away from headphones are including wired connection, basically a headphone without basically a 3.5mm headphone jack, but using a USB connector. Samsung includes that in their box. Not everybody does anymore, but those are there. I don't think it's really much on the manufacturer, but more on the demand. We're going into the wireless kind of an experience. People are able to charge their phones wirelessly without connecting a wire to them, and they want to be able to kind of permeate that through the experience. So with Samsung phones, you can charge them wirelessly, reverse charge your headphones with them, and actually, for the most part, not need a wire to get anything done on these devices, and it works quite well. Personally, I don't think it's really that more on the manufacturers. It's more about basically what the users are asking. And I think that's really where we allow our dollars to speak for us. If less people bought the wireless headphones, companies will bring back more wired, and that's going to be kind of the main experience. But I think most people have jumped over on it because wireless headphones are so cheap now, and people are able to jump onto them. And if they're not playing like very no latency concerns on games, or playing those type of games on their devices, I feel like most people won't have a big problem. For me, I like to actually use a very nice pair. So this is my DT770s, and these are basically 250 ohms high impedance headphones that need a very strong DAC built into your phone to be able to use them. And the V60 drives these guys easily. So there's always going to be a demand for professionals that do use the higher impedance headphones. So I feel like the headphones are definitely needed, and I'm happy to see, again, Sony bringing it back. Sorry, the chat is going quite long. Let me see if I can jump over. I'm pretty impressed with my regular OnePlus 7, and yeah, definitely the 7. There's no question the 7 is actually a very nice device. I love the new aesthetics, the new vibration motor that they brought in there, the updates that we saw from the 6T, and even the ones before with the faster charging. So a lot of good benefits with the OnePlus 7. There's no question that the 855 is very, very capable. But if you're considering looking into the 8 or the 8 Pro, obviously those are things that you need to keep in mind. 90 Hertz refresh rate is definitely still there. You'll be able to enjoy the benefit there. The cameras, and hopefully we'll see some more new features. I'm not sure if the standard 8 will include wireless charging, as that leak that we saw before was mostly talking about the 8 Pro, which is typical to what OnePlus usually does. The Xperia 1 Mach 2. So the V60 or the S20 Ultra, which is the better buy in your opinion? So this is Black Romero. So it's an interesting question, but it's also kind of a dependent question on what you use and what you want to do. I would probably say this: if you're coming from an ecosystem that's either already a Samsung ecosystem or an LG ecosystem, I feel like they're both going to basically say it's use what you're comfortable with. Comparing the two devices, and I think you're referencing to the S20 Ultra, not the S20 Plus, not the Ultra. So we're doing more of an apples to apples kind of thing. The S20 Plus is a small incremental update to what we saw last year. We obviously have the higher refresh rate, we have the 5G that are built in here, but so is the LG V60. I think price point, the LG V60 is a little bit cheaper from where you're able to pick it up right now, although there is a sale going on where I think the S20 Plus is about $999 and I think the V60 is $799. It really comes down to what you're looking to do. Both feature stereo speakers, wireless charging, gaming capability, the 865 with the X55 modem. It may end up just coming down to basically the UI. Do you like having Dex on your phone? Do you enjoy using Dex? That's something that will probably bring you more into the Samsung ecosystem. But I feel like if you're looking at purchasing a device that obviously great experience, a headphone jack that obviously you can't get on the S20, LG will be more your realms, right? It really is going to come down to what you need out of your phone. My recommendation, I think both devices are great, are going to be providing you a great experience. Cameras on both are actually pretty good. 8K recording on both devices, as well as 4K 60 frames per second on both front and back cameras. No question, they're definitely going to please. So, but again, that comes down to what you're looking for and what you want to get. Trev, good. Hey, man, what's up? Oh, that's a good. Okay, so comparing the two, if we have to talk about the S20 Ultra or the Pixel 4, um, so DT Neil definitely appreciates the 770, the DT 770s. Those are great headphones, and I'm not just using them mostly for just listening to music on the V60. I listen to them when I'm editing my videos. I listen to them a lot because they're definitely very comfortable and also just give you a very good, not overly tuned pair of headphones or pair of cans there to be able to give you really good audio, especially when you're listening for the detail in the videos that you're working in. But to answer the S20 versus the Pixel 4, so that's a very big stretch. The Ultra is the higher end model of what all the Samsung devices are going there. We're talking 108 megapixel camera, 5,000 milliamp battery, all that other stuff that you're getting. And then you're comparing it to the Pixel 4, which is considered to be more of the smaller of the two devices that runs obviously the lower resolution. The display itself doesn't run at 120 hertz. So there's a big difference there. If I want to compare the two, I would probably compare them to their features, not necessarily to what they're maybe having concerns with. Camera-wise, I feel like the Pixel 4 will give you great pictures and it will give you really good photography type of an experience because of the because of the Google UI and of course all of the machine learning that Google has. Where Samsung will definitely be featuring more on the video side. You can do 8K, you can do obviously 4K 60 front and back, and a lot more. Where the 4K capabilities on the Pixel 4 are capped at 30 frames per second. So it's really going to depend on what you want, and it always comes down to it. Water resistant expandable storage is obviously going to be a Samsung kind of thing where you don't really necessarily have that on the Pixel 4. But if you really want more of a clean, simple UI, very good, very snappy, always up to date operating system on a device, Pixel will always be there. Samsung's doing a great job of updating security patch updates, but as far as security operating system updates, they're a little bit behind with older devices, faster on the newer ones. So always end up being about more of an experience there. So both are good. I like both, and I always appreciate having the option of selecting between the two. So okay, here's it. So Simon says. Simon says is basically, I'm due to an upgrade for my OnePlus 7 Pro. The V60 has already caught my eye, and I think it's a great option. I really think jumping from the 7 Pro to the V60, especially because it has 5G, it has a really good system setup, it has the dual screen option, a headphone jack, again, expandable storage, front-facing stereo speakers, wireless charging, a lot of the things that we look for, and at least a day and a half battery with that 5,000 milliamp battery. I think it's really, really good. If you're able to wait a little bit more to see what the 8 Pro or the 8 is offering, I think that's definitely will not hurt. As far as options, they're announcing them hopefully in a week or so. I'm not sure when the availability will be. Maybe it may end up being basically the beginning of the month or next month at least, if history is serving us well. Looking forward to getting my P40 Pro on Wednesday. Wow. Okay, Alex1989M, congratulations. So Alex just picked up a P40 Pro. Definitely, it's a beast of a device, by the way. Great. We're talking about the Kirin 990. We're talking about EMUI desktop. Now, there are some challenges. Obviously, it does not have Google Play services, but there are so many different ways of making things work for you, getting the apps that you want and everything working there. Stereo speakers, wireless charging, reverse wireless charging. Take that back. No stereo speakers. I was wrong about that one. The P series does not have that, and I'm not sure why. But yes, so definitely a beast of a device. 90 hertz refresh rate built in with the Kirin 990 and 5G. So there's no question about it that it's going to be great. And from what I've seen, some of the best cameras on the market to date, obviously. Hopefully, I'm really hopeful that OnePlus will bring in some new, not only hardware, but software optimizations done, of course, in the camera department to be able to even push more on all the things that they've updated last year with the OnePlus 7T or the OnePlus 7 line of devices. Let's go further down. Oh, man. Here. So, Cabinet Fanta. Okay, how you doing? And then, Arshan Ahmed, is there any update about the OnePlus earphones True Wireless? Huge fan. Thank you. Hey, all the way from India. Good morning. I think it's morning for you. I'm not sure time-wise. No word yet. I'm very, very hopeful. If the rumor of the fact that we have reverse wireless charging on the OnePlus 7T, on the OnePlus 8 Pro is true, there's a very high likeliness that that's going to be something that they can push in with true wireless headphones from them. We've seen two versions of their wireless bullets, but this is definitely going to be something appreciated, and we'll see how that goes. Let me screen further a little bit more. Oh, okay. So Alex1989 is coming in. He's going to the P40 Pro from the P30 Pro, which I think is a very good jump. And you'll be very comfortable in that ecosystem, of course. EMUI, very, very good. I think the biggest thing that you probably will be needing there is Actually, keep in mind, you are going to be using phone clone. I've seen some people do the comparison where they jumped from one ecosystem to the other, and you're able to bring in a lot of your applications using phone clone. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're able to use some of your existing apps directly, even though they're not existing on the app gallery, directly over when you bring them over with phone clone. So definitely keep that posted and let me know on Twitter if you get a chance to. Speaking of which, make sure you guys, if you haven't checked me out or seen seen me from the channel there, here are my information. It is TKBay8655 on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and of course TKBay here on YouTube, as you guys probably already follow, hopefully, and are subscribed to the channel. Okay, so it looks like the comments have calmed a little bit down, so let's go ahead and jump over real quick here. I just want to double check on something here, and let me double check here. Yeah, so oh yeah, I was looking at my live stream and the picture was frozen, so that was me like, what happened? So let's switch over here on the bottom. Let's go ahead and we're going to clean up some of these devices. Again, let me know if you have any more questions going on. I think I'm going to jump into the V60. I'm on T-Mobile Jump on Demand. Yes. Hands down, if you have the option, I would definitely go for that, and I definitely recommend you getting the case. Unless it's a price thing where you don't feel comfortable, I would probably say go definitely with the case, because it just adds so much more functionalities. So here it is. We're bringing in, here's the Honor Magicbook. Now, if you're not familiar with the laptops from Honor, from Huawei, Honor and Huawei have had they've had devices in the past. This is not the first iteration of the Magicbook. There was a first version that came out with this before, but that one was only China available, and this one is actually globally launched and available now in Europe, or should be available very soon. Overall aesthetics, on the left side, we have an HDMI output, a USB Type A, and a USB-C. The USB-C port is connected for the power connection, although it does not work with MHL adapters, so you do need to use the HDMI port here to be able to basically use an external display. Full-size USB Type A here. On the right side, we have another full-size USB Type A, a headphone jack, and that's pretty much it. On the back, we have a black bar. On the bottom, some of the ports that you see here is where the speaker and the grills are, and of course the exhaust fans. So speakers on this are basically facing downwards, but it is actually raised. So you can kind of see right here, there's an extra raised lip. Let's go ahead and bring it on this angle, which raises the device, the laptop off the table. So it's never sitting flush on the table for ventilation purposes, as well as for your speaker performance. On the front, you'll notice we have a microphone, two microphones positioned right in the front for obviously audio capturing when you're using the camera. And we'll talk a little bit more about what they used. Before we go too far, this is going to be featuring the AMD Radeon graphics here, as well as Windows 10.0. And then let's go ahead and keep here. And opening it up, we'll take the plastic off here and then opening it up right here. So overall, the device actually features the fingerprint sensor here for power. So we'll go ahead and push it in, turn on the device. It does support the Honor Magic Link, which is a function that enables us to basically use the tap option. So let's go ahead and bring here. I was doing some research on getting Quicken. So if you guys have any comments or any recommendation as far as a good, I would say, I don't know how to explain it. Basically a money management application that looks really good, mostly for personal, but as well as for business. And then here, as you saw, it works with a fingerprint sensor, and really, really nice. Let's go ahead and bring it down. Last but not least, obviously there is no touch. This is not a touch panel. It's a 14-inch panel, and of course the speakers are facing downwards. All the standard functions that you normally expect from a Windows PC. It is nice. It is light. It's definitely not a heavy one, and should be able to last us quite a bit. We do have the PC Manager application that we've seen with other Huawei laptops, and this one is present. The keyboard layout, just to keep in mind, if you're considering getting this laptop in the US or importing it into the US, this is the European style layout. You'll notice the slightly different shape on the sides here, but not only that, we also have the euro and obviously the dollar sitting next to it. Last but not least, I don't know if you kind of noticed, there is no camera on the top, and that's because the camera is present similar to the way we've seen it with the Huawei laptops, where it's basically tucked into a specific button on the bottom here. So the presence of the camera is definitely going to be I would call this a nose camera, but yeah, always positioned a little bit further away, but I like the fact that they position the microphones sitting here. So initial impressions of the laptop, overall pretty good. I'm still running on my first charge on this, and it actually looks like it's pretty well built. I like the aesthetics. I like the fingerprint sensor unlocking. That's something that I got used to using with basically other Huawei laptops, and of course it should be able to work really nice. The USB-C port that we have here, again, will charge using USB-C, a power brick that they include with it, although we don't have the ability of using an external MHL adapter. So for me, I was trying to use it with the Zenture dock to be able to charge it and use an eHDMI basically output. Unfortunately, it only works through the built-in one. So those are some of the things you want to keep in mind if you're considering getting the MagicBook. Obviously, there'll be more videos covering this and talking more about the MagicBook and the main features there. So let's jump back real quick back into the actual to the live stream. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Steve DeRoche is in here. So let's go ahead and open it up here. Let me just, I want to be able to see it clearly here on the screen. So, oh man, yeah. So when did the BlackBerry will ever come back? It's a little bit of a hard sell. I think HMD, for the most part, they pulled the plug on this thing not that long ago, and unless somebody else buys the actual rights to it and decides to bring it back, it's a little bit hard. I mean, I'm hoping Nokia doesn't even fall into the same realm, because they're still pushing out devices there. But I feel like BlackBerry for HMD at this point, it just did not make sense, and that's a very sad thing for us to see. I mean, the Key 2 was definitely a very good device and definitely very nice. It was never intended to be the most powerful phone, but for productivity, it was very good. The keys, the functionalities, the shortcuts, the touch sensitivity, everything, all of that. And then, of course, we had a fingerprint sensor that was built into the spacebar on the actual keyboard. Very nice. And a big fan of the Key 2. I have it here somewhere, but I haven't had a chance to use it for some time. So let's look a little bit more about the comments here before we kind of get to almost to the end there. Since the LG V60 comes with a Wacom technology, is it a real alternative to Samsung's Note series? If not, what do you think is still missing? Not a bad question. So Franken Telecutty. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly, and I do apologize if I say them wrong. Okay, so what we're talking about here essentially is the Wacom technology, the functionality of using the Wacom pen. I don't think LG is trying to compete. I'll say that at the beginning. I think LG is trying to provide us with basically a functionality that I feel like a lot of people have wanted to get from big displays. And what I mean by that is, we've seen many foldable phones come out on the market. We have the Galaxy Fold. We have the Flex Pi, obviously the new Flex Pi that we saw the leak for, or the announcement for. The Galaxy Fold 2 could be potentially coming very much in the near future. We have the Mate X that's coming from Huawei. All of these big devices with big displays don't include a pen. You want to be able to have that functionality. Obviously, a lot of people that use basically, let's say the Apple, I would say the iPad Pro, they always purchase the pencil. The pencil is an accessory you purchase there that gives you that functionality when you have so much real estate. Getting that functionality on the V60, I think, was a very good plus, specifically because of the case, because you get that two-display case, or you're able to purchase that as an accessory. And the pen works on both sides. So I think that's where the functionality becomes very good. Is it a contender to the Galaxy Note? I would say probably your preference of ecosystem will kind of dictate which one you use. I don't think it's trying to compete with the Galaxy Note, the S Pen, because the S Pen again has had many years of evolution of being upgraded. I mean, now we're down to gestures. At some point, we may not even need the S Pen. We'll be able to just basically draw with our fingers. But, and I am joking at this point, obviously. But I feel like the S Pen has had many, many more years to basically evolve and integrate itself into the ecosystem. LG is right now using this as more of an experiment. And I feel like this is the first device we've seen from them that has this built into the UI. So I probably would wait a little bit more, maybe to the next iteration, to see if this ends up being something they integrate and they keep in there, as opposed to just basically being more of a one-off. Because we know that LG likes to experiment. We also know LG likes to provide us with many different features. And having actually a Wacom display type of pen work directly with our phones is something that we haven't seen from them before. I think they're great. I think they do initially what you want them to do with both. And I feel like LG needs a little bit more as far as at least Gen 2 before we can call it to say this is a true alternative to the S Pen. If you like LG and you like to use it and have a headphone jack, I think the S Pen here is the Wacom pen, the bamboo pen will work great. And I think the S Pen on the Note line is pretty much one of the main selling points of Note devices. People want to be able to use the S Pen. So definitely their own little RAM, not necessarily one is better than the other. I would say basically just that the S Pen does have a lot more features. Again, the ability of launching and just being able to take a picture with it on a Note, it's been a big favorite feature for my wife, at least, if nothing else. So I definitely attest to Samsung's improvements and dedication for S Pen functionality. So let's jump back real quick, and I think I may have missed a few comments. I know you meant HMD, so not a problem. So okay, so Simon says it basically saying that they're anticipating that the OnePlus 8 will be basically $900. That's a big jump. That's a big jump for the standard edition. Because I think overall, the current version, the OnePlus 7 is the 7T right now on T-Mobile is about $499, and I think even at launch was around $650 or so. It didn't really cross much over. So for the OnePlus 8, I don't know if that one will go into 800 or $900 at this point. Actually, I take that back. I missed it. You said OnePlus Pro 8, and I kind of jumped and I didn't see the Pro after that. I think that is a very good possibility, depending on the feature and the fact that we're anticipating it to have 5G, which for the most part everything that's running the 865 should be able to do. It has an integrated X55 modem. So with the 5G, with the higher refresh rate, and if they're able to do it at QHD, and the reverse wireless charging, I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to get into the 900 realm. Yeah, so $900 I think is pretty close. Although I think I saw somewhere where they said that it will not cross 1,000. So I don't know. If they do cross 1,000, I don't think they will. Obviously, they said they won't. I think $900, around the $900, I think is more realistic of where things will be for the Pro. I want to hear his view on the higher gigabyte RAM. So Harry Gary Blessed, let's talk about that in just 1 second. I'll get to you as far as that. So I think answer your question. Yeah, no, dude, anytime, man, anytime. I like LG's experimentation. Wish they kept the volume buttons on the back, and I don't like the buttons on the side, especially now gestures are finally a thing years into. Yeah, exactly. So aesthetics, of course. I mean, they used to have the power button in the back with a fingerprint sensor. That's gone away. It's now an in-display fingerprint sensor. So I agree. LG definitely likes to experiment. I like what they're bringing in with the V60. I think that they have some things that they can tweak, but definitely they're going in the right way. So let's talk about Harry's comment as far as the RAM availability on the device. And what I'll say for that is, let's talk specifically OnePlus, because that's the recent video that I was posted about that. Having more RAM on an Android device always helps functionality on certain applications, especially when things that require rendering and more, I would say, more space to play in, meaning heavy memory guzzling applications. I'm talking about video rendering. I'm talking about just overall performance that take a long time for gaming and so on. Android definitely benefits. And I've done a video in the past where I've tested a comparison between the the OnePlus 7 Pro with 855, with the Snapdragon 855 with 12 gigs of RAM, comparing it to the OnePlus 7T, which had, I think was it that had 12 gigs of RAM. The 7T had 8 gigs of RAM and had the 855 Plus. The processor on the 7T was faster, but the amount of RAM there gave the edge over on the OnePlus 7 Pro, mostly because it had more RAM to function in, and I think it was just also faster in the overall experience. So RAM is definitely a plus. Are we getting into the realm of basically ridiculous amount of 16 gigs of RAM and 12 gigs of RAM? I feel like 12 gigs is a great number to be able to work with, especially if you're using your device as a workhorse, rendering, producing things from it. And the more RAM you're able to get in there are definitely going to be benefiting it. Make sure that we're getting obviously the latest tech as far as RAM. So faster RAM, not necessarily just more RAM for the sake of number. So to answer your question, I would probably say is basically 8 gigs of RAM that run at a higher clock speed than what you normally get with a 12 gig RAM will definitely benefit you there. But having more RAM when you're rendering will also work better for you. So it's really more of a use case scenario at the end of the day, as always. Funkin, I would definitely say depends on your usage. Yeah, you could definitely not need a single button and everything will work fine. You can definitely look at that. I think was it the Xiaomi Mi Mix Ultra? The Mi Mix Ultra supposedly basically getting rid of all buttons and everything is just touch. Yes, the V60 is definitely very nice. So Dr. Donna is definitely chiming in on that. She's very impressed with that one. Mr. Calmer, I watched TK on the and it does actually, yeah. So Simon is just kind of echoing the V50, the Red Magic video, of course. Simon said, yes, always. Thank you very much, you guys. I appreciate it. So, with that, I'm actually not sure how far or how long I've been going. Let me see here how far. Here we are. Let's go back into the live. And so, all what I want to say is, yes, there's a lot of good things coming in 2020. It looks like OnePlus is definitely going to be a big thing talking about in the next week or so. I'm hoping to be able to pick it up as soon as it becomes available, or if I'm able to actually kind of like years past being able to basically get on the reviewer side. I'd have to see how things go, as you guys could see right there. So salute the speed. That was from my McLaren 6T box. That's what we have back there. Can you do a quick size comparison between the S20 Plus and the V60, please? Black Romero, I would love to be able to do a comparison. Unfortunately, I don't have the S20 Plus. I have the S20 Ultra and I have the S20. So sadly, the one bigger and one smaller, but not the one that you're looking for. And I can tell you that the V60 is slightly taller than the S20 Ultra, ever so slightly, but that's mostly because of the form factor that it's on there. It's a big boy. There's no question about that. The V60 is the big phone, and it definitely commands that. And then when you have a dual screen functionality on that thing, I mean, we're talking dual 6.9 inch, or I think 6.8 inch display. So definitely very, very nice. But it definitely is bigger than the S20 Plus, for sure. It's closer to the S20 Ultra size as far as the comparison. How do you turn on a phone without a button? Most phones now, if you haven't seen it yet, there's a couple of functions going on. LG pioneered this technology, well, made it more mainstream by doing the basically raise to wake or even knock to wake, which enabled basically the accelerometer on the phone to recognize a certain motion on the phone to enable to turn on the display. A lot more devices are also featuring always on displays, which for the most part means the display is on all the time and enables us to have that knock on or lift to wake, something to work much better. We've seen it with the Pixel 4. They have a sensor that's built in directly into the top part of the device, where it basically is using the Soli chip to actually use face unlocking. By the time you actually pick up the phone and get it close to your face, it's already unlocked. So many, many different ways of turning on your phone without using a power button on it. So no question there. Why do turn it on? I never turn it on. I like the way you're thinking. No, so the Funkin Telechucky. Telechi, sorry. Funkin Telechi, hopefully I'm saying it right. We're kind of going back and forth with the whole questions as far as, not needing buttons on the front or on the side, and going back to olden days of the LG devices. And then it kind of went into the whole, why even turn it on? Don't even bother turning on the display. Just leave it on the whole time. And I feel like, 5,000 milliamp battery will last you at least a day and a half. I'm not sure if it'll stay that long if it's on all the time, but, of course, it definitely depends on the usage that you guys have. Mr. Commerce is basically commenting saying that the price is supposed to be low, but yeah, I'm curious about that. It should be. Also, we were talking about the OnePlus 8 and the 8 Pro. It's hard for us to kind of see or basically estimate how much the pricing is going to be. OnePlus is known for having good pricing for their feature set, but as you've seen within the last few years, ever so slightly every year the price goes up a little bit. The jump that we're seeing or anticipating to see this year is a little bit more than your standard yearly iteration. So we're not just talking about a faster display. We're talking possible wireless charging, reverse wireless charging. Again, these leaks are very, very, I would say, ambitious. But it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell because we've seen different iterations of it. But I would definitely be appreciative of having, the 120 Hertz at the QHD at the very, very least. The charging speed on the Warp Charge 30T is so fast on OnePlus devices that you're probably never going to worry about having wireless. But the fact is they're saying it's going to be wireless, obviously wireless at 30 watts. So, does that mean necessarily that we're going to need to basically find 30-watt charging pads that work with it? Those are things that we need to keep in mind because that's a very fast wireless charging. And at this point, if I'm not mistaken, I think even the P40 Pro is rated to be at 27 watts, and that's already a fast wireless charger. So things to keep in mind when we're thinking about that. And of course, reverse wireless charging is going to be a very, very first time seeing anything like that from OnePlus on top of the wireless option, of course. So the Red Magic 5G price, I haven't actually seen the price point on this one. The announcement's supposed to come out within the next few months. I've had somebody reach out to me on Twitter talking about being able to see it, but there's a Chinese variant of this that you're able to purchase online, and that one for the most part will work in the I think it was mostly the Chinese market. As far as the US or the European market, I'm not sure, but I do know that at least my unit, the one I have with me, does work with the US T-Mobile 5G. So it does seem like it's going to be supporting US bands as well as European bands as well. So, but price point, sadly, I do not have that yet. But I'm pretty sure we're all going to hear about that very, very soon. So here's Ravi Kumar is talking about, the pixel design and as far as lagging and as far as aesthetics and so on. I feel like you have to keep in mind that Google's not trying to compete with everybody when it comes down to design. They're not trying to outdo Samsung. They're not trying to outdo OnePlus or anybody else. I think what Google likes to do is essentially give you a clean aesthetical look, and it gives you basically the things that they can do and they can do quite well. So that's really the main core situation. And what I mean by that is, they said that they wouldn't be offering us 4K 60 frames per second and they would focus on 4K 30, and that's because that's probably what they could do best. And it does do a good job of it at that point. Is it going to be the best video camera available on the market? I feel like no. I feel like Samsung's done a much better job. I feel like even Apple has some good hardware and camera optics to be able to provide us much better video quality out of their devices. But it did a great job when it comes to camera. We always know that pixel cameras are one of the best ones on the market. So I'm always interested to see what things can go with there. So Charlie the tech fan is talking about the 40-watt wireless charging. So I saw that comment, Charlie, and for the most part, I haven't seen a charger from Huawei that shows 40 watts. So they've rated it at 40 watts, and I have the fast charger from them, and that's maxed out at 27 watts. So it depends on basically, saying that I have a Lamborghini that can go to 160 miles an hour, but I only have a Road that can go to 130. It kind of depends. I did see that comment as well, but I couldn't validate the tests because nobody has that charger. I referenced the 27 mostly because of the speed of their max wireless charging that they have that uses the 40-watt charger that comes in the box. So, but it is 40 watt in the box with the wired connection. So I do agree with you on that one. But I have to see basically if you have a link to the charger, I would definitely be interested to see that. Okay, so the LGH, basically, do you think or don't you think that the made a lot of sense? Professional users and Windows phones had the power. Microsoft and Windows on a mobile device has been something that would have been nice. Continuum was supposed to be something that was very big for us, and it didn't really pick up a lot, which is sad because I think it's mostly an ecosystem, but also app support. Not a lot of app developers decided to go into the ecosystem, mostly because of the number of subscribers, and it felt like more like the reach. You had to be either on iOS or on Android with Samsung, and obviously the main creators, so they can get the most for their development time. So that's the sad situation, because it is what it is. Obviously, as a developer, you want to have the most reach. And when you go into the market and trying to basically start up as a developer, and you have so many more developers in the market that you're trying to compete with, you want to have a fair chance. So it's a little bit hard. But I do see that a lot more companies are trying to basically, even with Huawei, trying to work with developers to get you more money for your development time and, of course, a better reach there. Looking forward a little bit more. If my mobile payment apps work, I could go with the Huawei device without any problems. I think overall, it should have any problem working for you. My only concern that I would probably say is if it requires any kind of Google authentication, and it really depends on the developer of your mobile payment application. I personally haven't tested it yet, but I probably will have to test out and see how it works basically in the US. I do know that it does require a certain version of the Netflix application to work, but it does support it. Netflix does have certain applications that work without the GMS presence. Overall, I think it's still a really good option. So the last question here, the OnePlus 8 Pro is likely to be coming with a custom camera sensor, an IP rating and a 30-watt wireless charging, the last Hunter. Yeah, we kind of went through some of those specifications with the leaks that we saw on the portal post on XDA, and I'll give you guys a link into that once the live stream kind of renders and goes live on YouTube. So look, so this is for Ravi Kumar. I'm not against notches if they have a purpose. And what I would say essentially is if the notch is so big that the outer realm areas between the notch and the edges of your display are so small that they're not usable, don't even show the notch. I would basically just make it into a big forehead, mostly because at least you have functional reasons to have that notch, but at least give us a bigger display. But having a notch where it becomes so big that it just stands out in front of you, I feel like it just takes away from the experience. And I think that's where the Pixel line of devices did a little bit better this year, where we just have basically, it's a bigger forehead, but it's functional and all the sensors are in there. So, make it functional, don't make it into an aesthetical look. So Minato. not much really has changed with the whole US Huawei situation going on. It's been pretty much the same and maybe getting a little bit harder. But I think for the most part right now, I think true fans of the Huawei / Honor ecosystem will obviously import their devices and still use them. The devices work quite well. You just need to basically figure out what's the best process, what's the best combination of features, camera sets, as well as basically functionalities that you're looking from a phone. I don't have much as far as the information of what's going on there, as that's still technically a development situation. But so with that, I'll go ahead and kind of start wrapping things up. I do want to say thank you very much for everybody to joining in the live chat. Mr. Comer, Funkin Telechi, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Simon says, Doctor, let's see, jump a little bit more. I want to see if I can catch everybody. Corin, of course, thank you very much. Black Romero, of course, thank you. Harry, of course, welcome again. Mr. Comer. Well, so I think I missed some people here. Harry, the last few minutes we've been having a lot of big back and forth there. Arshan, welcome to the club. Simon again. Ahmed was in there as well. Oh, wow. So didn't see this question before, but to kind of respond back, yes, I'm using the GH5 connected to an Atom Mini. I'll be doing a video on that over on Amazon Live in about a few days now. Essentially, I use a DSLR for my live stream and for my main video recording. It works great. It's the same setup and it's very versatile. So I like things working in multiple purposes. I don't, if I have a GH5 and it has a great sensor on it, as long as I have good lighting, everything else will work pretty much the same. But thank you, Ahmed. Welcome to the club. So all in all, basically what I would probably say is be safe, be well, try to take care of your friends and family, call your parents and your grandparents if you haven't had a chance to talk to them. I think most of the world right now is going through some things. And of course, I want to make sure that you guys are staying home, being safe. We have a way of connecting once a week, Saturday morning with tech. I'm going to try to make this as a live thing. I didn't come on early enough. Oh, wow. I do want to stop saying to Osama, صباح ومساء الخير to Lebanon. ان شاء الله تكونوا بخير لكلكم وانا قلبي معكم طول الوقت مني معكم بس دايما بتذكركم ما تنسى. And that was just me basically saying hello to my fellow Lebanese homies. As you probably know, I'm Lebanese. I was born in Lebanon and I basically lived in the US for a majority of my life. But it always is very, very nice to always see somebody from my hometown. It just kind of, just brings back all those nice memories from when I was growing up. So I just said thank you and that they're always in my heart. Oh man, the ZTE Exxon 7, man. Funkin Telechi, you're killing me with that one. That's a good one. But thank you very much. Be safe, be home. Hopefully we'll all get through this together and we'll obviously be able to look forward in the future and get back to somewhat of a normalcy in our life. And if you have any questions, any comments or anything like that, make sure to hit me up on the comments below, or best way to get in touch with me again would be on Twitter, as I'm very active on Twitter, of course, as well as on Instagram. Facebook, I'm there, but I wouldn't necessarily call that the best way to contact me. Twitter is for the most part the best, and of course in the comments here. Like and subscribe, share with your friends. Thank you very much for the support. And as I'm going to be basically stumbling over here to try to figure out how to end this live stream, we'll have to figure out it together. So like and subscribe, share. I'll see you guys next week. And of course, with all the other videos we're covering here on the channel. And look forward to that video on the Honor Magicbook coming out very, very soon. So let's jump here. And if I'm not mistaken, this is where I have to figure out how to actually end the live stream. And normally I would just say, hey, let me call Juan Carlos and he can help me with this. But let's see how that goes. So at this point, I will go back into my stream and